Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I witnessed aliens abducting two young girls. I have kept this inside of me for 44 years, and I think it's time that I disclose a UFO event, which took place in 1965. My brother, who I will refer to as Colorado, and I witnessed aliens abducting two young girls, who lived in the trailer next door. We never told a soul about this encounter, and now that he has passed, I am the only person left to recount the events of that fateful night, which changed our lives forever. We were living near Bossier City, Louisiana, as our father was deep underground in the Air Force missile silos, and he worked for days at a time, in these bunkers. He had just come home on a 3-day leave, and we were so happy to be able to spend time with him. Colorado and I played rough with our dad all day, and we were bushed, come bedtime. I slept in the upper bunk, and my brother in the lower. Suddenly, around 3 o'clock or 4 a.m., we were both awakened by a low thundering sound, and the most brilliantly colored light display, just outside our window, at the foot of our bunk bed. I moved to the window and looked down to see Colorado looking out as well. We both watched a flying saucer land in the field, close to our neighbor's trailer. Our family was very close to these neighbors, and the two young girls living there were best friends to my brother and myself. I can't recall their names, but they were approximately 7 and 10 years old. We debated about waking our parents, but we were so frightened, and thought if we wake them, and they start turning on outside lights, or walk outside with any weapons, there would be bloodshed, and sheer panic in the trailer park. So, we sat very quietly and simply observed. This flying saucer was about 50 feet in diameter, and had multicolored lights around the perimeter. Everything beneath the craft was distorted and wavy, as it was gently settling down in the dirt field. There were 4 metal legs that slid down from the craft, with round pads on each. All of the lights on the craft went out, within about 30 seconds, after it landed. But a light blue glow started to envelope the craft, and it made the area around it glow as well. Then, a ramp slid down from the craft, and a door opened up, and we could partially see inside the ship. There were dull red and orange lights on the walls, and an electrical crackling sound, emanating from the interior. Then the interior lights went out, and the weird sound stopped. Suddenly, a figure started to walk down the ramp, and was followed by another. Now, I think I should mention, Colorado and I were never allowed to watch any science fiction shows or movies, with aliens or spaceships. I had never even seen a drawing or picture of a saucer, before this. We were allowed to watch cartoons like Scooby-Doo and Bugs Bunny, along with shows like The Wonderful World of Disney and Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. So, this was truly an adventurous night for us, and definitely something very new. The first two beings walking down the ramp made their way into the light of our neighbor's yard. There was a light on the back of their trailer and their porch. When they got closer to the brighter light on their porch, we could see that they were dressed in the same color of suits. But the weird thing was that their skin appeared to be the same color as well. They looked human in shape and size, but moved in a way that made them function more like robots. Every movement was very smooth and effortless, as though they were moving about in water. They now remind me of the Blue Man Group from Vegas, because they were completely blue all over. Then, another 2 beings exited the craft, and they were green. Another 2 that were red. Until there were 6 of them in all. They walked in line, up to the door of the trailer. They all passed right through the door, without opening it. And that scared the heck out of us. More so, than the landing of the craft. We were asking each other, did you see that? What are they going to do with our friends? Minutes later, they passed through the door again, and they were leading the 2 girls, all the way back to their ship. The girls appeared as though they were sleepwalking, and even had their eyes closed. But walked just fine, without any help from these strange beings. Now, if you are wondering, yes, the girls passed right through the door, without it being opened too. Only about 5 minutes later, they exited the ship and lead the girls back into the trailer. But, when the beings passed through the door, for the last time, as they were coming out, they all crouched down slightly, turned and looked directly at our window. We tried so hard to see if there was anything different about our neighbors' daughters after that night. But, we didn't notice anything unusual. The Louisiana UFO event troubles me to this day. More so than any other event. I have often wondered if Colorado and I were the actual abductees, and the memory of the girls' abduction was planted. But, in any case, 2 or possibly even 4 people were contacted or abducted that night. Of that I am sure. I need to find answers to this event somehow. Even if it means going to a qualified hypnotist, experienced in the abduction phenomena. I have to know exactly what happened in 1965. Possibly on 100 different occasions, I considered filing an official report of this incident, with some organization like the Mutual UFO Network. I wonder if those 2 young girls are now going through abduction therapy as adults. So many unanswered questions, and I think about that night, every single day of my life. I need to get this monkey off of my back, somehow, and this helps to finally tell the world about that strange night.
My story took place a few years ago when we lived on the res in Arizona. My entire family had gotten together for my mom's birthday and spent the night at my grandmother's house out in the sticks, in the middle of nowhere. At about 10:30 p.m. her dogs started barking and howling like crazy. No one got up to check because it was pitch black outside. But I could tell that the dogs were running back and forth chasing something. I got curious, so I turned the outside light on and stepped out the front door to see what was going on. Then suddenly, something jumped from the tree onto the side of my grandmother's house and started crawling like Spider-Man all around the house. It was hard to make out, but it looked like a small man crawling like a lizard. The house was made of stucco, but it moved around easily. This thing was fast too. The dogs were going nuts. I ran into the house screaming. Everyone was terrified and I remember crawling underneath the bed. The noises were horrible, and it sounded like there were more than one. I heard squeaking sounds that got real loud at times. They would jump on top of the roof and could be heard walking around. I don't remember how long it lasted, but I was under the bed the entire night. When dawn came, we all went outside to check out the house. There were a few bits of stucco knocked off, but not as bad I thought it would be. The dogs were in the tool shed and too tired to move. Then my uncle got a ladder, so he and I climbed to the roof. What we saw was really shocking. There were hundreds of white handprints going around the flat roof, right up to the edge. The handprints were small in size but were human. It looked like the hands had been dipped in white paint. I looked closer, but it wasn't paint. It was almost like a thick chalk. My uncle told me not to mention it to anyone in the family, especially my grandmother. She had said all her life that skinwalkers were after her. I didn't believe her, but after that night I began to wonder if she was telling the truth. I later asked my uncle what he thought it was. He didn't hesitate and said it was definitely witches. He said our family had been cursed during the old days before the treaties. He said someone in the family was a known witch and when they were killed, the elders had placed a curse on the family. My uncle then laughed and said that no one outside of the family remembers any of that and it's probably a rumor anyway. Well, it scared me enough that I believe that there may be something to that story. After that incident, I never spent another night at my grandmother's place again.
The ant people of the Hopi Indians have lived on the high desert of northern Arizona for thousands of years. This barren but beautiful landscape was the place where Hopi gods directed them to build a number of villages made up of pueblos, what we today would call stone apartment complexes. Here the Hopi managed to flourish by simply growing corn, beans, and squash with very little rainfall and almost no irrigation. One of the most intriguing Hopi legends involves the ant people, who were crucial to the survival of the Hopi, not just once but twice. The so-called First World, or World Age, was apparently destroyed by fire, possibly some sort of volcanism, asteroid strike, or coronal mass ejection from the sun. The Second World was destroyed by ice age glaciers or a pole shift. During these two global cataclysms, the virtuous members of the Hopi tribe were guided by an odd-shaped cloud during the day and a moving star at night that led them to the sky god named Sotunang, who finally took them to the ant people, in Hopi, Anu Sinam. The ant people then escorted the Hopi into subterranean caves where they found refuge and sustenance. In this legend, the ant people are portrayed as generous and industrious, giving the Hopi food when supplies ran short and teaching them the merits of food storage. In fact, another legend says that the reason why the ants have such thin waists today is because they once deprived themselves of provisions in order to feed the Hopi. The constellation Orion also has a thin waist. When Orion dominates the winter skies, the ants are deep in their small underground hills. These structures are similar in form to the Hopi kivas, which are subterranean communal prayer chambers. Coincidentally, the Sanskrit word ki means ant hill, and va means dwelling. Each February inside their kivas the Hopi perform the bean sprouting ceremony, or bean dance, called powamu. During this time the fires are continuously kept ablaze, turning these structures into superb hothouses. The ritual commemorates a time when the Anu Sinam taught the Hopi how to sprout beans inside caverns in order to survive. It is interesting to note that the Babylonian sky god was named Anu. The Hopi word for ant is also Anu, and the Hopi root word Naki means friends. Thus, the Hopi Anu Naki, or ant friends, may have been the same as the Sumerian Anunnaki, the beings who once came to earth from the heavens. The ant people may have also lived in ancient Egypt. Akhenaten, the 18th dynasty pharaoh who ruled from 1351 to 1334 BC, is shown in some depictions with an elongated skull like the shape of an ant's head. His almond-shaped eyes and neck are like the ant's, and either the serpent or the vulture on his uraeus resembles the ant's mandibles. He also has spindly arms and legs like those of the ant, and his upper body resembles the ant's thorax while his lower body mirrors the ant's abdomen. Akhenaten's body type can be specifically compared to the pharaoh ant, Momamorium pharaonis, which originated in West Africa. It also has an elongated head, a yellow to reddish-brown body, and a darker abdomen with a stinger. Perhaps it is more than a coincidence that the Egyptian word Sahu means stars of Orion, whereas the Hopi word Sohu means star, the most important of which are those in the constellation Orion.
Cylinder UFO and 2 Bigfoot. Chula Vista, California, October 1, 2013. Hello, my name is name removed. My sister and her friends are the real witnesses to this. The sightings were on 2 different occasions. The first sighting was when my 23-year-old sister and her guy friend were relaxing in her car one day just hanging out, and at the moment they got out of the car they described seeing a white cylinder floating just above them. She describes it as being like a floating cigarette. It hovered away behind some hills, and they lost sight of it. The second encounter was at night when supposedly my sister's friend and his younger brother, who are also her neighbors, heard some strange screams outside their house. You really can't see anything back there at night. There is nothing but hills and mountains behind those houses. Anyways, they went out with a pellet gun and a flashlight to check out what the noises were. Then suddenly they encountered what they describe as being two huge Bigfoot-type creatures standing in front of them but at a near distance. Supposedly they shot at them with the pellet gun, but they say the creatures didn't even flinch. So they ran back, scared, to their house. After that he went directly with my sister to tell her the story. That's all I know. I trust my sister, and she wouldn't make up a story like this. I'm gonna do a bit more investigating on what these guys actually saw. But please keep a record of this. We appreciate you guys being here. Not too many people will believe a strange story like this. Thank you.
Sprawled out along the edges of European civilization lies one of the great natural wonders of the world, the Caspian Sea. The largest inland lake in the world. The vast, enigmatic Caspian Sea has long captured the imagination of mankind and has been the birthplace of legends, myths, and numerous mysteries for thousands of years. The ancient Assyrians believed that the lake was from whence the sun rose and set, and the legends of numerous ancient civilizations of the region have been influenced and shaped by this mysterious body of water. Beyond the ancient myths and legends are very real mysteries that have endured through to the modern day, and the lake is pervaded by enigmas both natural and otherworldly. Let us take a tour of the strange wonders of the Caspian Sea. The Caspian Sea is truly a remarkable sight to behold. At 1,200 kilometers, 745 miles, long, 320 kilometers, 210 miles, wide, and with a surface area of approximately 371,000 square kilometers, 143,200 square miles, it is the largest completely enclosed body of water on Earth. Its waters are slightly saline, around 1/3 of the salinity of seawater on average. The Caspian shoreline passes along Azerbaijan, Iran, Kazakhstan, Russia, and Turkmenistan, through terrain as varied as the rugged mountains of the Great Caucasus of Azerbaijan to the west, and the Turkmen and scorched Kazakh deserts to the east. The Caspian is divided into three distinct physical regions: the northern, middle, and southern Caspian, each with its own unique characteristics. The northern Caspian is the shallowest, comprising the Caspian Shelf and reaching average depths of a mere 5 to 6 meters, 16 to 20 feet. The middle Caspian gets deeper, at an average of around 190 meters, 620 feet, and the southern Caspian drops off considerably into truly epic oceanic depths of over 1,000 meters, 3,300 feet. This depth variation has contributed to thriving, diverse ecosystems and abundant aquatic life, including valuable fisheries of sturgeon, salmon, perch, herring, and carp, as well as other types of marine life such as porpoises and seals. This biological diversity has also made the Caspian an attractive settlement area for humankind since ancient times. The lake served as a great provider of food, salt, and oil for peoples throughout history, as well as serving as a convenient alternative mode of transportation to perilous overland routes. The Caspian's rich wealth of resources gave rise to prosperous civilizations and great economies, with many different cultures sharing the region, trading, sharing, and indeed sometimes going to war with each other. However, there is also a great wealth of mysteries here, spanning everything from mysterious creatures, to UFOs, to lost civilizations and treasures. It seems that among all of the fish and other aquatic organisms that live here, the Caspian Sea is home to something else as well. For years, residents along the southern and southwestern shores of the sea have reported seeing some sort of amphibious creature that somewhat resembles a human being. The mystery beast is described as being around 165 centimeters in length, with a large mouth that flows smoothly into the neck without a chin, and large, elliptical eyes set into an earless head topped with black and green hair. The webbed hands are equipped with formidable-looking claws, and the nose is said to somewhat resemble the beak of a dolphin. It has a solid build, with a protruding stomach and short, heavy arms and legs. Iranians have long known of such a creature, calling it Runan Shah, or the master of the sea and rivers, in part because it is said to often be accompanied by large shoals of fish, as well as due to its purported ability to turn water crystal clear simply by swimming through it. It is said that fish can sense when the creature is near, and fresh catches have been known to produce gurgling noises shortly before it makes an appearance. The thing is said to be seen both in the water and on shore. A fairly high-profile sighting of the mysterious marine humanoid was made by the crew aboard the Azeri trawler Baku, in March of 2005. According to the captain of the vessel, Ghaffar Gassanov, the creature was first seen swimming parallel to the ship for quite some time. The captain told the Iranian newspaper Zindagi that they had first taken it to be just some sort of large fish, that is, until they noticed that the fins looked somewhat off, and that it sported hair on its head. It was at that point that they made the shocking discovery that the thing had humanoid arms topped with webbed hands. Shortly after, the thing dove down into the depths out of sight. In their homeland of Azerbaijan, the crew were ridiculed for the story, but the Iranians, with their long tradition of similar creatures in the sea, believed them. The newspaper was subsequently deluged with people coming forward with similar reports of their own. Interestingly, reports of these creatures intensified in correspondence to an increase in offshore drilling in the region, as well as increased seabed volcanic activity in the Babalsara area. Amphibious humanoid creatures are not the only strange creatures said to inhabit the depths of the Caspian Sea. There have been reports of some sort of large, predatory fish prowling the waters as well. In 1998, a fish poacher by the name of Samed Jafarov came forward with a story of some sort of shark-like creature that terrorized him and his companion. The man was out spearfishing with a friend near a place called Fort Shevchenko, when they spotted a massive sturgeon that they set their sights on. At that moment, a huge, torpedo-shaped fish rushed out from the depths that they at first took to be a shark. The man reportedly shot a spear into the thing's head, but it was unfazed, and proceeded to latch onto his legs with fierce jaws. With this weird, giant fish latched onto his legs, the man made his way towards the surface, where crew aboard the boat managed to pull him aboard. He was rushed to a hospital where he received a blood transfusion and had his leg amputated below the knee. When asked about what his mysterious aggressor might be, he was inclined to think it was a shark. Are there sharks in the Caspian Sea? According to common knowledge, no. The true culprit remains unknown. What other mysteries lurk under the waves of the Caspian Sea? It just so happens that the area is rife with purported lost cities. The region has long been the stage on which ancient civilizations and cities have mysteriously disappeared. Off the coast of northern Dagestan lies the capital of what was called Hazar Khaganat, the fabled city of Itil. This city flourished from the 9th to 12th centuries AD, and then simply vanished without a trace. Further south, we can find the city of Derbent, which sported massive walls that extended up to 300 meters out to sea, and were said to be crafted by the hands of giants. The purpose of such walls, and indeed how they were made in the first place, has remained a mystery. Along the coast of Azerbaijan, In the Bay of Baku, lies a castle known as Sabail Castle, also called Baal Castle or Baal Rocks, which was originally built in the early 13th century on a small island around 300 meters offshore and now lies completely submerged in water. This castle has been a part of Azerbaijani legends and folklore for centuries. It is a 180 by 40 meter structure from around the 13th century with a trapezoidal shape and sturdy outer walls that were up to 2 meters thick, suggesting it may have been a defensive structure. Additionally, there were semicircular towers surrounding the castle of indeterminate purpose, but no one really knows just who built the castle or for what reasons. There are many stories surrounding the mysterious structure. One is that Alexander the Great wanted to conquer a city with a magnificent castle on the banks of the Caspian Sea, but the people steadfastly refused to yield. Alexander the Great asked advice from his teacher, Aristotle, who pointed out that the city was located below sea level, and with only a single large stone preventing water from inundating it. A special liquid was designed to dissolve the rock, and it is said the water came bursting in to inundate the city and its castle. Another legend suggests that there was an enormous earthquake in 1306 which rose the sea level and buried the castle underwater. Yet another idea lies within the name of the castle itself, Sabail. There was once said to be a tribe of people in a land called Saba, which is mentioned in the Quran. It is said that the people of this land worshipped the sun, and for this disobedience to the one true God, they were punished by having their land submerged by the sea. Archaeologists have determined that the castle once had 9 rooms, 2 of them with hearths. An inscription places the date of construction at 1234 to 1235. Among the ruins were also found fragments of some sort of pottery, which was probably used for cooking, as well as pieces of pipes which are surmised to have possibly been water pipes. Within one room was found an ancient coin which was minted during the rule of Shirvanshah Faraburs III, in the first part of the 13th century, as well as various other copper coins, some of them inscribed with the names Faraburs bin Garsib and Zasif and Nasir, who were the Shirvanshahs, or Muslim rulers of ancient Azerbaijan, from 1180 to 1225. A bizarre feature of the castle ruins is that they are surrounded by nearly 700 large stone panels bearing Persian and Arabic script carved right into the rock, as well as decorations and various images of animals such as oxen, dogs, camels, numerous mythical creatures, even human faces and a life-sized depiction of a warrior atop a horse. Additionally, there are genealogies of various Shirvanshahs written in stone, and it is thought that many of the carved animals symbolize these powerful ancient rulers. All of the carvings are meticulously done, obviously crafted by skilled hands. There is some evidence to show that there were once life-sized stone sculptures of animals such as horses and lions on the premises as well. As to the purpose the castle may have served, it is mostly thought to have been some sort of defensive structure, due to the towers and unusually thick outer walls, although to defend from whom or what remains a mystery. Some have suggested that it may have been some sort of fire-worshipping temple used by the Zoroastrians, a customs office, a monastery, or even a stop-off point for land caravans, or caravanserai. However, for all of the theories, to this day, it is a complete mystery as to who built the castle, for what purpose, or why it has sunk beneath the waves. The Institute of History at the Academy of Science spent 30 years from 1939 to 1969 studying the underwater castle, yet even after extensive research were unable to ascertain the answers to these questions, and so Sabail Castle remains a complete enigma. In modern times, The castle has seen a lot of wear from the elements and the fact that it has been submerged for centuries, so only its foundation remains, and although some have been brought up for study, many of the large, inscribed stones remain at the bottom of the Caspian. Due to the dramatic fluctuations in sea level of the Caspian Sea over the centuries, sometimes as much as 7 meters, a large number of mysterious ruins of structures and even entire settlements have been lost beneath the waves, and these submerged ruins have become a magnetic for undersea archaeology. The Caspian Sea holds mysteries not only in its depths, but also in the skies above. There have long been reports of mysterious lights in the skies here, and the region is the origin of one of the more interesting UFO encounters in recent years. On August 28, 1991, at around 5 p.m., an enormous unidentified object that measured an estimated 600 meters long and 110 meters in diameter suddenly appeared over the Caspian Sea. The object was picked up on a Russian radar tracking station positioned on the Mangishlik Peninsula, which tracked it at an altitude of 21,000 feet and moving at a speed of around 960 miles per hour. The Russian military was perhaps understandably alarmed, and sent 4 MiG-29 fighter jets on aggressive orders to engage the mysterious craft and get it to land. If the craft refused to land, the pilots had been instructed to shoot it out of the sky. Upon approaching the unidentified object, it soon became obvious that it was not any type of known aircraft. Pilots described it as being a massive, elongated object that was shiny metallic gray in color, and it was also noticed that there were strange green symbols written on the outside of the craft that were not in any recognizable language. Attempts were made to make radio contact with the object, but when these were ignored, the fighters were ordered to open fire. As soon as they fired a warning shot at the craft, all of the instrumentation related to the weaponry and other electrical systems allegedly malfunctioned, forcing 2 of the MiGs to return to base immediately. It was reported that as these pilots left the area, all systems returned to normal and they regained control of their jets. The remaining MiGs continued to attempt to fire upon the mysterious craft, but they too soon lost most control of their planes and were also ordered back to base as the gigantic UFO continued unhindered. Meanwhile, the tracking station on the ground was maintaining radar contact with the object and noted that it assumed a zigzag course, and that its speed began to increase dramatically until 45 minutes later it suddenly vanished from the radar. The story would only get more bizarre from there. About a month later, at the end of September, local rumors began to spread of an enormous object that had crashed into the Tian Shan Mountains of Kyrgyzstan, on Russia's border with China, in a craggy, rocky gorge called Shaitan Mazar, which roughly translates to "grave of the devil." The rumors claimed that those who had stumbled upon the crash site had experienced burns on their bodies and their watches had gone haywire. A local expedition of skilled mountaineers, joined by the Russian UFO group, SAKK-UFON, was mounted to try and locate the downed object, but weather conditions eventually caused them to turn back after weeks of turning up no sign of the crash. The region's poor weather also caused the deadly crash of a Russian Air Force helicopter that was tasked with finding it. When the Russian Air Force allegedly finally found the crashed object after weather conditions cleared up, it was reported that members of the expedition experienced severe anxiety and feelings of horrific dread when approaching to around 1,000 meters from the site. At a distance of around 800 meters, all members were beset by a profound state of physical fatigue and potent nausea to the point that some people collapsed where they stood or were unable to go any further. At around 600 meters from the crash, all watches, cameras, and other electrical equipment either malfunctioned or stopped altogether, with videotaped footage being completely erased. Anyone who soldiered on and made it to around 500 meters of the craft reportedly began to display nasty radiation burns, and this was about as close as anyone was willing to get. All attempts to fly over the object also failed, as whatever energy field it was emitting also caused any aircraft in the vicinity to lose control of their electrical systems. In one case, yet another helicopter is said to have crashed and killed all aboard after attempting to remove a piece of the craft's debris from the snow. It is currently unknown what became of the crash site and alleged mysterious craft after this, and if the Russian Air Force has any knowledge of it, they're not sharing it. The Caspian Sea is clearly a place of wonders, both natural and historical. However, it is also possessed of its share of mysteries as well. From bizarre monsters of the deep, to ancient mysteries, underwater castles, and UFOs. This is a place as full of enigmas as it is legends, myths and history. What is there to be found here at the Caspian Sea, around it, under it, and over its waves? Whatever the answer to this question may turn out to be, the Caspian Sea will likely continue to capture the imagination of mankind far into the future, as it has done for countless generations of centuries past.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.